So Shifa Hospital, over the last 24 hours, we've conducted two core operations. First of all, evacuation of those that wished to evacuate. We received a request from the general manager of the hospital asking for a evacuation of those that can. And so we facilitated that throughout yesterday, and also initiated a humanitarian access for food and water and medical supplies to the hospital in order to assist those that remain in the hospital, the patients that can't be moved, and the staff, the hospital staff that remained, in order to take care of them. And the second component of the operation in the compound of al-Shifa is the component of operations on the ground, continuing to reveal the layers of Hamas's terror infrastructure. So those are the two components that are ongoing in Shifa. We expect more humanitarian activities taking place throughout the day, including perhaps evacuation of the babies that are in the hospital still. This is what we're planning throughout the day. We are continuing to find extensive both tunnels, but also weapons and explosives and RPGs. It is clear to us that our intelligence was accurate, that the situation that we found in Shifa Hospital is I would say, a breach of humanitarian law. It is an abuse of the protections of medical positions, medical locations, such as hospital. Hamas intentionally, as a concept of operations, not only in Shifa, but also in the Al-Quds hospital and also in the Rantisi hospital, used the hospital specifically to conduct their operations as access points, under the understanding that we won't attack them. So what we are doing now, as we've revealed more tunnel access points, or the extent of tunnels that exist under hospitals, we are not surprised, but we are advancing slowly, basically for our force protection. We're not going to rush into tunnels that perhaps could be and are expected to be booby-trapped with explosive devices and jeopardize our forces just for the sake of being in line with the news cycle. This is the challenge. The world expects immediate answers, and we're saying, we'll give you answers, we'll present the information, we will make sure that you are aware of how Hamas have abused the hospital, but we won't do it at the risk of our forces. Well, the World Health Organization are a partner in this operation, in evacuation and so on. Unfortunately, we've been calling on the evacuation of the hospital for several weeks now, and instead of evacuating them, the World Health Organization said, no, people can't be evacuated, which proved to be wrong. As I said, we evacuated people yesterday, and we'll continue to do that evacuation today. The international humanitarian organizations need to be a part and parcel in the solution of the humanitarian conditions. We see them as partners. They need to address, when we are raising concerns of Hamas using hospitals as command and control positions, as access points, as tunnels. We've not heard a word of their condemnation of Hamas's use of and abuse of these locations. So it's a very, very questionable situation on one hand, but a real situation on the other hand that needs to be solved. So let's work together, let's get together in order to solve the dire situation that the people of Gaza and the patients in the hospital are facing. And the World Health Organization can be a partner for it, but they need to be very, very clear in their message. That it's not just saying that Israel is to blame. Israel isn't to blame. We did not ask for this war. But Hamas chose to launch an attack on us, and then he chose to hide in, around, and beneath the hospital. We have broadened the scope of our activities and offensive activities, both in the neighborhoods of Zeitoun and also in Jabalia. But there is combat taking place all the time. The nature of terrorist organizations operating in urban areas is that they will come out and try and connect a magnetic explosive device to one of the APCs or a tank or something like that, or they'll shoot an RPG from a distance. So there is engaging constantly all the time. I would say, though, that Hamas, these two neighborhoods, the Zeitoun and the Jabalia, are areas that we've not conducted ground operations up until now. So we are engaging them, and their forces are still intact there. In the places where we've engaged up until now, El-Atatre, Beit Hanun, Shati, in the center of Gaza City, those places the terrorists have taken to underground activities, but in the other areas where we're moving forward and advancing and expanding our operations, we are finding them and we are engaging them and we are killing the enemy. Our goals is to, or one of the war efforts, or one of the directives is to bring home the hostages. So we're utilizing all of our tools, intelligence and operational capabilities in order to do that. Indeed, the discovery of the 2 bodies of hostages was a result of those activities. We knew where to go. Where their bodies were being held adjacent to the Shifa compound. It's not by mistake that they were being held in this location, in these locations, different locations. And we are utilizing all of our capabilities in order to proceed and try and find them. Unfortunately, I don't have anything new to report on this. We have demanded that the International Committee of the Red Cross have access to the hostages and assess their well-being. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened yet to the best of my knowledge. It is a true tragedy. You know, there are 236, the families of 236 people who have been torn to pieces now for 44 days. This morning, we've had some more engagement, more mortar fire from the border, from Lebanon into northern Israel. The situation is indeed continues to be concerning. We are in a defensive posture on the border with Lebanon. You know, yesterday was a very, very intense day up north with over 25 mortars and rockets fired in from Lebanon into Israel. It's a very, very delicate, sensitive situation, but we are operating on a defensive posture, which means when they are shooting at us, we're responding, we're targeting specific Hezbollah locations. It's, I think there is a very severe concern that Hezbollah will overstep the red line that is a very, very clear challenge to Israel. We want to be focused on Hamas. We want to destroy and dismantle Hamas. And Hezbollah are trying to take away our attention from the south and draw us into the north. And that is why we are maintaining our defensive posture in order to be very focused on achieving our goal in the south and not getting dragged into a 2-front war at this stage. It could happen, and that we need to be prepared for. And that's why we've evacuated civilians from the area of the northern border, from the town of Kiryat Shmona. We're taking defensive and safety precautions in order to minimize the exposure of our forces along the border so that Hezbollah do not have any tactical successes that could spiral the situation into a broader war. But we are prepared for that eventuality. We have reservists on the border. We have regular forces on the border. We have aerial capabilities, naval capabilities, aerial defense, and home front command capabilities in order to be prepared for any deterioration. The security situation in the West Bank is also of concern. We've seen an uptick in tension and real threats developing from terrorists, Hamas terrorists, and we've arrested actually over 1,000 Hamas terrorists in the last 6 weeks that were planning, colluding, or celebrating the terrorist activities. This is a serious challenge, and when people take the law into their own hands, it jeopardizes the safety and security even more. So we're against the vigilantism on one hand and operating in order to prevent that, but more importantly, we're actively seeking out and engaging terrorists before they are able to conduct any sorts of terrorist activities. And that is why we're seeing a very strong initiative on the IDF's activity against terrorist cells that are perhaps planning, intending, and colluding in order to conduct attacks against us.